Hi everybody, I'm Chris Van Dusen back with another exciting episode of Chris Van Doodles. Today we're going to stick with the Mercy Watson theme. You guys probably know that Mercy Watson is a series of books written by Kate DiCamillo. I did the illustrations, and they're about a pig named Mercy Watson. We've been drawing characters from those books. On Monday we drew Mercy herself. And yesterday we drew Eugenia Lincoln, the cranky neighbor that lives next door to the Watsons. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to draw a character that is also one of the main characters. It's Mrs. Watson. We're going to draw Mrs. Watson. And that way we're going to turn our paper this way. We're going to turn it sideways because she has kind of an oval shaped head. All right, so let's get going. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a shape that is very much an oval. And we're going to start like this. Let's see if I can draw oval here. Again, look at me. I'm just drawing very lightly. Okay, just a simple oval. That's going to be the shape of Mrs. Watson's head. All right. Now let's figure out where her nose is going to be. Her nose is going to be right in the middle. And let's just draw like a light little circle because her nose is really just kind of a little pug kind of nose. It looks kind of like that. All right. Now her eyes are pretty wide set, so her eyes are going to be way out here, and those are going to be circles as well. So we'll draw a circle over here, again keeping it light, and a circle over here. Try to keep them the same size. I think I got this one too far out. So again, nothing precious here. We can erase it, and we can bring this one in a little bit. All right. There, something like that. And we'll darken this up as we go. Now, Mrs. Watson is usually a pretty cheery lady. She is very happy to have a pig named Mercy, and so I'm going to make her smiling. And a smile is just very simple. It's going to go right across and kind of point up toward the eyes of Mrs. Watson. And again, we can make her kind of like have little cheeks. So we can put a little line that looks like that. All right? Now, the thing that really sets Mrs. Watson apart is her hair. She has this crazy hair that goes all the way out here, and I'll have to move the paper so you guys can see it. But we're going to, first of all, we're going to find the center line. So we're going to draw a slight, light line like that, because that's where the part of her hair is going to be, right? Now, let's start, we have the top of the oval here. Let's start about, actually, let's start right on the oval, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to do this big swirly line. Again, I'll move it so you guys can see it. I'm going to do a big swirly line. It's going to go out like this, okay? So it looks something like this. All right? Now we're going to do the exact same line over here. We're going to try to get them to match up, and this looks something like this. Awesome. Now what we're going to do on the bottom, because her hair kind of sticks down and goes, and it's going to join onto this point that we came out. So we did this big curvy line here. We came out to this point. Now we're going to do this big curvy line that comes back up and joins here. So it's going to look something like this. And again, draw it lightly at first. So it looks something like that. Right? And then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to start right in that center point, and we're going to do a line that sort of matches this one. And we're going to bring it right down. I'll move this paper so you guys can see, right down here and joins over here. Now, when I designed Mrs. Watson, and Kate DiCamillo was wonderful. She gave me slight descriptions of the characters, but she really left it up to me to what the characters should look like. And I thought Mrs. Watson should look kind of like, kind of porcine herself, a little bit like a pig, because, well, it's kind of weird that she's, adopted this pig as her daughter. So I thought she should look a little bit like a pig. So I always thought this hair that sticks out on this side looked a little bit like pig ears, the way they stick out. All right, now we're going to do, let's start on this side this time. We're going to find a point on the side of her head that kind of lines up with her eye. And we'll come back and do the pupils in just a minute. I mean, it looks, again, she looks kind of spooky like that, but we'll come back and finish that. So let's start here, and we're going to do a curvy line that goes up and joins the end here. So just again, lightly just draw that line that goes like that. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to find a point probably about there that matches up with that point. And then we're going to go just like that. All right, that's looking like Mrs. Watson. Now, before we finish the back of her hair that kind of comes down the back, we have to do one thing. We have to add her ears. She has little ears that tuck under this layer of hair. So if we find a point like right there and just do a little line that curves down like that, that will be the bottom of her ear. We'll go over here. We'll do the same thing. Find a point there, curve it down to the side of her head, just like that. I'm going to straighten it up a little bit. See how those kind of look like pig ears? They do kind of look like pig ears, don't they? Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to finish her hair, and that actually finishes up down below her ear. So we're going to find a point down about here, and we're going to continue that right up to that point. So all the hair, all the layers of hair all meet at that little point that sticks out from her head like that. And then we're going to go over here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to find a point sort of below her ear like that. And we're going to just curve this up like this. Oops. See, now I didn't quite get that even. So I'm going to lower this one down a little bit. Like so it's going to be more like that. They should kind of match up. It should be symmetrical on each side. So I'm going to erase that line and make that. Then she has a little line in her ear that looks like this, and this sort of indicates the crease inside her ear. All right, perfect. Now she also has a bit of a chin, so a little bit of a double chin rather. So we're just going to put another curve that kind of looks like this because she's kind of plump and she's very jolly, and she's going to look like that. All right, now if we have her nose, let's put a little shadow under her nose like this. So it looks like it's sticking out. And I'm actually going to erase the top of that because you don't actually see the nose as a full circle. It's kind of like a kind of a U-shaped. That's how I indicate the nose in the illustrations. Now we have to indicate these creases kind of in her face where her eye sockets, kind of the area where her eyes are. And so right about like here, I'm going to put a line that looks like this. And right over here, I'm going to put a line that looks like this. Right? Now this will lead to her eyebrows, which are going to tuck right up underneath her hairline right here. So pull this over and I'll show you. I'm going to do it like this. And her eyebrows are pretty thin, so there's something like that. Now we'll go over here and do the same thing. Kind of tucks right underneath the hair there. And it looks like that. All right, this is coming together. Now let's make her eyes, and her eyes are just going to be looking right out at you guys. So we'll just put eyes right in the middle like this, right? And then since she's a woman, we'll give her some little cartoon eyelashes. Look like that. Now we can start adding some shading because we've got the basic idea. So I'm going to darken some of these lines, and you guys can darken the lines too. I'm also going to get rid of some lines that I started with. So I'm going to erase that curve that we had, because that would no longer show. And that little line that I did to indicate the middle. But now let's start darkening up. And I'm going to turn my paper sideways so I can draw a little bit easier. I'm going to start by darkening up the bottom of her hair like this. It's going to be a little darker underneath that line because that's where her hair is overlapping. Maybe it's shadow on her ears. And then here we're going to do some lines like this that indicate hair coming out of the side of her head. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll darken up this line. We'll darken up this line. And on her hair, this part is the darkest of all her hair. And then we'll just put some lines indicating hair coming out of her head. A little bit of shadow there on her ear. In the middle, we'll start with her part, and we will just kind of put some lines that indicate the hair all perfectly coiffed and heading in the direction of that outer point. So it's kind of like that. It's going to be a little bit darker in the middle And then it's going to get a little darker out here. Again, put a little shadow under that line because that will indicate that these layers of hair are overlapping, right? And I'll put some more lines that indicate hair. You can do whatever you really want here. It doesn't have to be exactly like what I'm doing here, but you could just kind of indicate hair by doing like this. And if you want to color it, her hair, of course, is bright, bright yellow. So you can just color this as yellow and sort of a darker yellow for these lines if you want to color it. It's totally up to you. I'm going to darken that line there. And I'll darken this line because I'm pretty happy with that. All right. I have to keep moving it back and forth so you guys can see the whole thing. Now let's give her some cheeks. Remember we did some cross hatching when it came to Mercy Watson, so we'll give her just a little blend like that. And I still got this ebony pencil that I'm using, so I might be able to smudge that and make it look more like a cheek. It's just like a blush. Oh yeah, look at that. That's kind of cool. I'm going to darken this mouth too, because when I do that, sometimes I lose a little bit. I kind of actually rub some of the pencil right off. I'm going to put a little shading on her nose. I feel like I'm doing her makeup. And then let's do just some little lines in her eyebrows so they stand out a little bit. And we'll darken up the eyes a little bit too. Last thing we'll do is we'll darken this line on the bottom of her head so it stands out a little bit more. And we'll give her a little bit of a body so she doesn't look like a floating head. Ooh, spooky floating head. That would not be good. Okay. Sorry I keep turning this paper on you guys because I have to do it so I can see what's going on. So that's what it looks like that. All right. Now let's do her collar, and we're going to go right below her little double chin here. We're going to do like a V right here. Ready? Boot, boot, like that, right? And then you can darken in the part of that, the top part of that V. That's where her collar joins. That's actually her neck right there, and this is part of her collar. Now, if we continue this V, we're going to do this big collar that looks like this. Watch. I'm going to go right down this line, and then I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to curve right up like this, and then I'll go like this. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll go right down that line, curve right around, and up like that. And she always wears these collars for some reason. They have these little dots on them. So I'm going to add the dots. They get a little bit bigger in the middle, and then they kind of taper off, and they get a little bit smaller toward the end. If you guys don't want to do this, you don't have to worry about it. You can do like a lace collar, or you can just leave it plain. It's totally up to you. But that's usually how it looks like in the book. And then I'll give her a little bit of a shadow under here to make it look like her head's sort of sticking out over her collar. Again, over here. Well, maybe I can use my pencil, my smudgy thing too. Oh yeah. I'm going to smudge her chin a little bit too. Give her a little bit of chin blush. Awesome. Last thing, just a little indication of the shoulders. We don't have to do much there, but just a little indication of shoulders going down. And there's a button, her top button is there, and her placket comes down like that. All right. Little shadow under the collar, little shadow under the collar. And that is basically Mrs. Watson. So thanks for joining me today. We'll be back tomorrow with another character from the Mercy Watson books. I'm not sure which one we'll do, but we'll have fun. Until then, stay well, keep drawing, and if you have some drawings you'd like to share with me, please post them on Facebook. I would love to see what you guys came up with. All right, see you tomorrow. Stay well. Bye.